You brought a lawsuit against your careless doctor claiming that he caused you harm and injury. Is it ever advantageous for the defense, the attorney who represents the doctor whom you have sued, to turn around and actually admit that he was careless? Is there ever an appropriate time for him to do that? You want to know the answer? Come join me on this walk through the neighborhood as I share with you the answer to that question. Hi, I'm Gerry Oginski. I'm a New York medical malpractice and personal injury attorney. The answer is yes. There are instances where it is advantageous for the defense to actually admit that they screwed up. Why is that? Because it may be clear-cut, it may be obvious to everybody, to everyone who looks at the facts of this case, who looks at the evidence, who looks at the medical records. In that instance, it may not be worthwhile for the defense to argue that they were not careless and did not violate the basic standards of medical care. In that instance, they will turn around likely and say, hey, listen, we are actually admitting liability. We admit that the doctor violated the basic standards of medical care. Now, once they admit that, you think, oh, this is great, your case is done, you have a clear win. No, you don't. Let me tell you why. Because in these medical malpractice cases, we have to show three separate things. We have to show, number one, that your doctor was careless. Now, if they go ahead and actually admit that, then guess what? We no longer have to show the first element of what we were required to prove. Instead, we now go to the second element, which is we have to show that that carelessness was a cause of your injury. It doesn't have to be the cause, it only has to be a cause. So that's known as causation. We have to show that the doctor's carelessness was a cause of your injury. If we can show that, now we go on to the third thing. What's the third thing? And that's damages. What are your injuries worth? What type of pain and suffering did you incur? What type of damages did you incur? So we now look to the second and third elements of your case, which is causation and damages. If the defense turns around and admits that they were careless, guess what? Now we only have to show that his carelessness was a cause of your injury. And you know something? Even if the doctor and his attorney admit that they were careless, they are not going to then admit that that carelessness caused you harm and injury. Why? Because they're still going to fight you tooth and nail on that part of the claim. They'll also fight you tooth and nail on the value of your injuries. So we claim that your injuries are worth this much. The defense is always going to turn around and say, no, your values are worth this much. They're always going to dispute how much your injuries are worth. They're never going to simply throw their hands up and say, you know what, you're absolutely right. You claim your injuries are worth $10 million? Okay, we'll roll over, we'll pay you $10 million. Here's a check. No, that's not how it works. So even if the defense actually admits and has no choice but to admit that they were careless, they are not going to admit then that the carelessness caused you harm and injury. They'll say, listen, okay, we were careless, but whatever we did didn't cause you an injury. Instead, you, the patient, caused your own harm and injury, or somebody else caused and contributed to your injury. They will shift the blame elsewhere. That's what happens in these cases. So why do I share this quick information with you? I share it with you just to give you an insight into what really happens in these medical malpractice cases in New York. You know, I realize you're likely watching this video because you have questions or concerns about your own matter. Well, if your matter did happen here in New York and you're thinking about bringing a lawsuit, but haven't done so yet because you still have questions that need to be answered, what I invite you to do is pick up the phone and call me. You know I answer questions like yours every single day, and I'd love to talk to you. You can reach me at 516-487-8207 or by email at Gerry, Gerry, at oginski-law.com. That's it for today's video. I'm Gerry Oginski. Have a wonderful day.